Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my presentation about road tunnels in the framework of PIARC's Global Road Safety Knowledge Exchange Strategy. My name is Ingo Kaundinya and I'm head of the PIARC TC on tunnels. In my normal job, I work for Federal Highway Research Institute, VRUs in Germany. In my presentation, I will give you some insight about road tunnel safety principles, specific hazards in road tunnels, human factors for road tunnel safety measures, and I will finish with some recommendations. Road tunnel safety principles. In this slide, a schematic representation of the proposal for an integral approach to the safety of new and in-service tunnels is presented. This is based on a PIARC report from 2007. You will find all the references at the end of the document. Briefly, the approach starts when planning a new tunnel. The effect of the planned safety measures, both technical and organizational, should be analyzed and evaluated against the applicable tunnel safety criteria and socio-economic and cost-benefit criteria in order to assure a safe and cost-effective tunnel system. If the planned measures don't pass the criteria, they are redefined or optimized until the evaluation results are satisfactory. This process is cyclic and repeats itself in each new stage of the design and realization of the tunnel on the basis of the further developed or the changed plans in design. The process also continues after the commissioning of the tunnel, when this is required because of change in, for example, the regulations, the boundary conditions, the use of the tunnel, of the structure of the equipment. A redefining of the measures can also be required on the basis of lessons learned or feedback from experience, when the evaluation of tunnel incidents show that the current safety measures are not effective enough in practice. There are some important aspects of tunnel safety which should be considered. As mentioned on the last slide, we have the safety level criteria, which are national regulations and guidelines which we have to consider when designing a safe tunnel. We have infrastructure and operational measures which are very important to ensure tunnel safety. Socio-economic and cost-benefit criteria, as mentioned before. There are some safety assessment techniques, such as risk analysis and risk evaluation. I will come to this later in the presentation. And the road tunnel usage is very important regarding its safety. The stage of a tunnel life has to be considered. So am I in the planning stage, in the design stage, construction, commissioning stage, and so on. And what is very important, you have to consider operating experience in your tunnel safety design. And the condition of this tunnel is also very important. I will now mention some specific hazards in road tunnels. So significant incidents in tunnels could be, on the one hand, collisions, which are more frequent events which could happen in the tunnel. And we have very rare events like fires, which could endanger very much the safety in the tunnel, especially for the users. And a third category could be the release of dangerous goods, which is also a very, very rare event, but could be very dangerous for the users in the tunnel. Coming to the tunnel conditions, in a tunnel, we are in a closed environment. But we have also some positive factors which could reduce the probability of collisions in a tunnel. Environmental conditions, because we are in a closed environment, it's better controlled. You have good lighting all the day around. You don't have influence from bad weather like snowfall or heavy rainfall. Tunnels provide a shorter and a safe route with fewer or no junctions, interchanges, crossroads. So it's a linear infrastructure. Pedestrians and slow-moving vehicles are generally prohibited in road tunnels, which also helps to have a high safety against collisions. There are some negative factors I would like to mention regarding the probability of collisions in the tunnel. We have a lot of obstacles in the tunnel, like the tunnel wall, like at the tunnel portals. This could be also dangerous for drivers which have a low level of attention. Protective measures, typically for the open road sections, are not present in all tunnels, but should be present in modern and modernized tunnels. Emergency lanes are mostly not present in many motorway tunnels because it is too expensive to build a big tunnel cross-section, including emergency lanes. In some tunnels you have emergency laybys instead. Sudden changes in light conditions may also occur at tunnel portals, and the monotonous atmosphere of long tunnels may also hamper drivers' awareness. Tunnel conditions may cause misjudgment of horizontal and vertical alignment, as well as safe driving distance from vehicles and obstacles. Coming now to tunnel fires. As mentioned before, these are a rare event, but if a fire happens in a tunnel, it has mostly big consequences. The key parameters for characterization of a tunnel fires, we have a very fast fire development, and the fire size could be huge. You can see it on this graph. There are different design fire curves used in different regulations. On national level, you can see all the fire curves include a very steep increase of the temperature within a few minutes up to 1200 or 1400 degrees Celsius. And you have a high fire load which lasts a long time. So key factors influencing tunnel fires is the nature of the fire load. So what kind of a fire load you have? Is it wood? Is it a tanker truck with gasoline in it? The technical condition of the vehicles involved is very important, and the airflow conditions in the tunnel during the fire development. So ventilation is a key element to keep a fire small or to help evacuation of users. And the fire safety engineering design of the specific tunnel is also important. There are several types of tunnel fires. Many fires happen resulting from a vehicle defect. So this could be a burning part of the motor. This could be a hot tire which caught fire. And these are mostly so-called shielded fires. They develop slowly, and there's an increased opportunity that this fire type could be extinguished before it will become a big fire and the health and safety of people in the tunnel is threatened. There are fires after collisions. These are mainly fires which could accelerate. If there's fuel leaking, for example, out of a vehicle, these fires can develop very fast. I will now come a little bit to the topic of human factors for road tunnel safety, which is a very important topic. The design of tunnels and their operation should take into account human factors. This is very important. Tunnels are enclosed structures with confined space that can cause for some users a feeling of anxiety and particular behavior, especially at the event of a collision. Drivers need to be very much aware of how they should behave in a tunnel and where are emergency exits, for example, to evacuate. A fairly long stretch of road, around 200 meters before the tunnel, should not contain too many signs or signals to distract the user from its driving task. The tunnel safety facilities should be easily recognizable in normal traffic situation. And alarm signals should be provided by multi-redundant sources. For example, you have a public address system in the tunnel, you have variable message signs, and you have the possibility to send radio messages so that they could be heard in the vehicles. Measures implemented should be well understood and adopted by the users. Tunnel operators. The operating staff responsible for monitoring and controlling tunnels it's very important to guarantee tunnel safety. They are involved in road tunnel crisis management. They have to inform and warn users in real time, encouraging them to adopt the appropriate behavior. Specific and appropriate training for this kind of staff is essential. Good coordination with rescue teams is required, and in cross-border tunnels, a good collaboration between the concerned countries is mandatory. Regarding the communication with users, there are a lot of different safety equipment in tunnels which could help to communicate with the users to encourage them to behave in the right way. So we have traffic lights in front of the tunnels. There could be a red light if the tunnel is closed or one lane is closed. The tunnel lighting is very important to signal and to help the people to evacuate if something happens. Variable message signs are important to show messages to the tunnel users, how they should behave. The possibility to speak via radio messages to the tunnel user is one communication means. We have tunnel closure systems like barriers at the entrance of a tunnel. I already mentioned the public address systems for communicating with the users. They must be well understandable. This is very important. Evacuation route lighting, emergency exit lighting, emergency phones, flashing exit route locations, sound beacons could even be used above emergency exits. And with the new technology, it may also be possible in the future to use in-vehicle systems to communicate directly and maybe also individually with the users. But this is something for the future. Tunnel operators and emergency services need to organize consultation and cooperation during the tunnel design process. So they must be involved in the design process of a tunnel. They have to construct contingency plans in order to prepare for tunnel users, protection and firefighting operations, and to keep the plans up to date. They have to organize familiarization visits and exercises to the tunnel and arrange the test of operational training. They have to define measures necessary to minimize the time required to mobilize the emergency services, and they have to organize post-accident analysis, including events of limited importance, in order to learn from experience. I come now to some road tunnel safety measures. We are distinguishing between measures preventing the occurrence of significant incidents, so working on the probability of incidents. This could be an adequate road signage, good quality tunnel lighting to reduce black hole effect for the drivers, optical lane guiding aids like reflectors, LED marker lights, and so on. Ventilation system to ensure good air quality is a very important measure in a confined space like a road tunnel. Dynamic warning signs, electronic overhead signal systems, overtaking prohibition, preventive maintenance. So a good condition of the tunnel structure and the equipment is very important to prevent the occurrence of significant incidents, like for example, collisions in a tunnel. There are some measures which can help to mitigate the consequences if an incident has happened in the tunnel. You can use safety barriers to soften the mechanical impact at specific points in the tunnel, for example at the portal. You can avoid secondary collisions by very fast closing one or more lanes in the tunnel or even the whole tunnel tube. The detection devices for early warning of incidents are very important, for example a video detection system, verification devices to confirm an incident has occurred, automatic fixed fire fighting devices. For some tunnels, this could be a very good safety measure. Permanent supervision by a control center. For all the longer tunnels, this is mandatory in many countries and many regulations that you have a 24/7 supervision of the road tunnels. Ventilation system, already mentioned before, is a very important mitigation measure. It's a preventive measure, but also a mitigation measure. Monitoring systems, like for example cameras, video cameras in the tunnel, and fire resistance of the equipment. So if a fire happens, the equipment is still working. And very important are the measures to support the self-rescue of tunnel users. Important part is a maximum admissible distance of emergency exits leading to a safe zone. In many regulations, this maximum distance is between 300 and 500 meters. Smoke measurement strategies are very important. Some of these are initiated automatically. If a fire happens in the tunnel, for example, you have to have a very good ventilation system to help the users to evacuate by using the ventilation system. Safe evacuation passages between the tubes in the tunnel with two tubes operating, but also if you have a unidirectional traffic, you need a special escape routes or escape tunnels. Special attention needed for tunnels with high gradients, because this could be an influencing factor and lead to higher probability of collisions, for example. And what is also key is the education of the public by information campaigns. Measures supporting the emergency response by the rescue services. These are very complex measures because they interact with the safety procedures and tunnel safety equipment, as well as human behavior involving tunnel operators, emergency organizations, and so on. Vehicle fires are very important, and this must be trained, and the firefighters have to deal with this to be prepared for these kind of events in the tunnel. Operators need to know their tunnels, but normally they know their tunnels very well. Firefighters need to have basic training in firefighters in tunnel fires, but they also have to train in the related infrastructures. Establish efficient cooperation between operators and firefighters. This is mandatory, that they could communicate efficiently and very fast if something happens in the tunnel. Knowledge sharing about specific tunnels is also a key factor, and firefighters must be updated on aspects relevant for tunnel safety. So if something is changed in the tunnels, the tunnel firefighting crew has to be informed about these changes or updates. I will now touch very briefly the risk assessment procedure, which could be used to evaluate the risk in a tunnel. This is described in detail in the PIARC report. You will find all relevant report on the last slide of this presentation. So when you start the risk assessment procedure, you first have to define the system. So what tunnel are you dealing with? Then you have to identify the specific hazards which are relevant in your tunnel. You are doing a probability analysis and a consequence analysis, and this goes together into the risk estimation. And finally, you can evaluate your risk based on the risk criteria you have in your guidelines, for example. If the risk is acceptable, you are done with your risk assessment. If the risk is not acceptable, you have to include additional safety measures, and then this is a cyclic process, and you have to go again into the risk reduction risk analysis and see if after implementation of risk reduction measures, the safety level is acceptable of the tunnel. So also for existing tunnels, it's possible to increase the safety. This is very important because most of the tunnel stock you have in a country are existing tunnels. And for this, there's also a PIARC report with a very good procedure to do this in a formalized way. We have a situation assessment as a first step, establish the safety framework, investigate the current situation in the tunnel, evaluate the tunnel safety level. If it's acceptable, the process comes to an end. If not, You have to consider the future situation by implementing safety improvement programs, evaluate future tunnel safety level, and look if it's acceptable or not. If it's acceptable, the process could come to an end. If not, you have to implement more risk reduction measures and start the steps again. This is described in detail, as mentioned before, in one of our PIARC publications. So coming to a summary, with the recommendations we could have here, you have to adopt an integrated approach to the design of a road tunnel. I mentioned this at the beginning of my presentation. It is important to take into account the human factor. The behavior of the tunnel users and tunnel operators is a very important part of tunnel safety. Establish the safety concept at an early design stage and provide it to all project stages. This is also very key. Ensure cooperation between operators and firefighting organizations and adopt measures for prevention, mitigation, self-rescue and emergency response. Ensure adopted measures are well understood by everyone involved, and most important, upgrade your existing tunnels if they are not meeting the safety criteria as it is defined in your national guidelines and regulations. So PIARC is boosting road safety in low and medium income countries by this strategy. PIARC has responded to the need to bring together the experience gained in the field of the road tunnel operations by addressing a range of issues related to the use of road tunnels. We have in our TC developed the Road Tunnels Manual, which contains all PIARC knowledge on tunnels with a lot of references. It's a living document. There's a lot of new stuff integrated into this manual, and you have references to all the relevant PIARC reports and articles. PIARC is engaged in promoting road safety all over the world and committed to actively support safety in low and middle income countries, for example, by doing the seminars. The new knowledge sharing campaign for road safety will provide monthly updates on social media and on PIARC website for all essential road safety areas. Stay tuned for more actions and events, and please watch our movies produced in this campaign. Here are all the relevant PIARC reports I mentioned during my talk. They could be accessed for free from the PIARC webpage. You just have to register and then you get a login and you can download everything for free. Thank you very much for your attention and have a safe journey through our road tunnels.